You alright guys, Kaz Elkin back with week 2 of my Beginner to Pro series. So that's a series where I'm aiming to go from being an absolute beginner at coding to hopefully being a pro and landing a job at some point in the not too distant future. The observant among you might have spotted that there's been more than 1 week since I uploaded my week 1 video, and that is just because I haven't actually managed to spend my time consecutively across the month of October. So I've had some time off in between sort of like each week of coding, and just, you know, that's just been because of an interrupted schedule. It's not intentional, and I'm going to try and make things more regular going forward. Notwithstanding the interrupted schedule, I have managed to get some good time down this week. I have managed to get some good experience still behind the computer, managed to get some interesting things, some interesting beginner things made, and I'm going to follow the format that I followed last week for my week 1 video, where I'm just going to show you my time entries for the week, what I spent my time on, and how much time I spent doing certain things. And then I'm going to show you some of the beginner exercises that I did and kind of like the micro projects that I worked on during my second week. Moving on to my time entries for the week. As you can see, not as much time spent this week as I spent in my first week. On Monday, I pretty much just did exercises all day, spent a little over 5 hours doing that. Again, on Tuesday, 4 hours doing exercises and micro projects, and then an hour at the end kind of just watching videos. I think I watched sort of Skillshare videos and a few YouTube videos on loops and functions while I was doing that. Wednesday, only managed to spend a little over an hour working on Wednesday, as I was out most of Wednesday, but just focused again on exercises and micro projects. I think I just did one little exercise on Wednesday. Thursday, however, I returned back to the Python Mega course, and I did sections 14, 15 and 16. So this is the Python Mega course, as I explained in my resource selection video. This is kind of my main guide and roadmap to learning how to code. And in my first week, I got up to application 1, the English Thesaurus. This week, I've actually managed to finish that application. So I've done application 1, and then obviously also made it through sections 14, 15 and 16 up to application 2. I have not started application 2, which is a volcano and population web map. I haven't started it. That's going to be a week 3 thing, so I'm planning on starting that when I start the next week of coding. As you can see, I've spent quite a lot of time doing beginner exercises and micro projects. One really useful website that I found that I'm going to share with you guys is this practicepython.org. I found this by just putting into Google beginner Python exercises, and it's effectively just a website that has a list of 36 beginner exercises and micro projects that kind of like range in difficulty, and it has solutions here as well. I did the first 8, and it's a really good website. It's quite the challenges that it gives you obviously just require you to have a grasp of some of the fundamentals of Python. So I'm finding it really useful website to just make my way down when I'm not doing the Python Mega course. As I said in last week's video, I'm a big believer in problem sets and exercises, and in the absence of, you know, having like a homework assignment or having a problem set assignment in some sort of like more structured learning environment, like if you were doing a coding course, I think it's really important to kind of do this thing for yourself, to kind of set yourself up with your own problem sets and to set yourself up with your own exercises to test yourself. So you can use this, or you can use any of the other free ones that are on Google. I think the important thing is just that you've got quite a large bank of beginner exercises that you can draw on when you're learning, and that's what I've done here. As I did last week, I'm going to show you some of the code that I wrote this week. So this here is just a list of the beginner exercises and the sort of like small micro projects that I put together. I'm not going to show you everything, but I am going to show you some of this stuff. A lot of this comes from that practicepython.org website that I just showed you, but some of these were off random YouTube and Skillshare videos that I watched, and some were also off the Python Mega course. So just to give you an example of the kinds of things that I've been doing, we got this age calculator, nothing particularly complicated. but it just asks you how old you are, tell you how old I am, 28, and then tells me the year in which I will be 100 years old. So this was off the practicepython.org, I think. Fairly straightforward, but you know, a useful little exercise to sort of flex the muscles a little bit, and like, you know, if this is like the first thing you do on a morning, just to get into the spirit of things, that can be really useful as well. What else have we got here? They've got my odd even calculator, so it just asks you for a number, you pick a number, and it will tell you whether or not it is odd or even. Fairly straightforward. That was from the practicepython.org website as well. And all of these things, they kind of, you know, they look really simple, and they are really simple, but as a beginner, some of these little things can be challenging to put together as well, and just requires a grasp of some of the fundamentals, and lets you practice some of the fundamentals that you learn while you're watching videos and whatnot. So a great little exercise. I've got this little app that tells you whether or not a word is a palindrome. So we do .py, and then you pick a word. So let's say if I put in race car, and then it will tell me that it's a palindrome, and if not, let's just put in car, word is not a palindrome. So again, something really simple, but this one was actually a little bit challenging, because this little bit of input, this little bit of code here, I had to go in sort of, I hadn't been showed that on the Python Mega course or any of the videos that I watched. And that's the case with a lot of these exercises as well. Sometimes there's a little thing in there that I just hadn't learned, that no one's told me about in any of the videos that I've watched, and then you've got to go in and find out for yourself how to do something. So, you know, they're great little exercises. I'd highly recommend using the website if you're starting out for yourself as well. One of the larger mini projects that I've been working on this week was this rock, paper, scissors game. So this came from the practicepython.org website. So this is exercise number 8, and this is rated 3 chilies. I don't know, this website rates difficulty in the order of chilies. I don't really know why, but I put this together. This was my first stab at it before looking at the solution. Obviously, all of these bits of code that I've got here, and all of these little programs that I've got running, they're my stab at something without having looked at the solution. So I haven't just copied the solution over. I will let you know when I show you the solution that I've been given by the video or by the website that I've been working with. But this was my first stab at it. So put in rock, paper, scissors, and then it asks you whether or not you want to play rock, paper, scissors. You say yes. So player 1, say rock, and then player 2 makes scissors, and then the course says player 1 wins. Fairly straightforward. This was actually simpler than I'm probably doing the palindrome one, because I just kind of I had an idea of how I wanted to do this, so I just, as you can see here, I just sort of created conditionals just for all the different inputs, and because rock, paper, scissors is quite a straightforward game, it didn't take too long. One of these is the solution given by the website, but I can't remember which one. But I felt like my first stab at it was good enough anyway. So that's it. That's my rock, paper, scissors game. The first little game that I've managed to make. Nothing particularly complicated, obviously, but yeah, it was interesting. Now, finally, moving on to application 1 in the Python Mega course, and the thing that took most of my time this week. That is the thesaurus. So this is my first attempt, without looking at the solution provided by the instructor on the Python Mega course. This is my first attempt at making a thesaurus app. So v1.py, and the way it works, just asks you to pick a word, and then let's say, for example, if you say rain, and it will return the definition of the word, and that's it. So pretty straightforward, and then just type -n to finish, and that's it. So as you can see, I was quite happy with this for first attempt. You know, it asks you to pick a word, and then it gives you the definition, which is exactly what you want. Now, the downside with my attempt here is that well, I'll show you. First of all, it thinks capitalizations are words that are spelled incorrectly, but then it also is unable to take a guess at a misspelling. So if you type rain with like 2 N's, for example, or cloud with 2 D's, it'll just treat that as being spelled incorrectly because it doesn't have the sort of like functionality to be able to pick a similar word and ask you if you mean rain or if you mean cloud. So that's definitely one downside of the way that I did this. And then also I didn't take the brackets out as well for the output. So if you do just put like cloud, these brackets are still here. But nonetheless, I was quite happy that I managed to get something working that looked at least a little bit like what it was supposed to look like. So I was quite happy about that. This was the instructor's version, so a lot better than my version, and it has a feature in it where, you know, if you spell a word incorrectly, it will ask you. Oh, well, okay, that wasn't even the word that I was trying to spell, but let's just say it was. It will ask you if you mean that word, and then it will return the definition of the word back. So it has this get close matches functionality in there that lets you misspell words and it will still guide you to the right answer. Mine obviously didn't have that, so this is better. This is more user friendly than mine, obviously. This third version of the Thesaurus is basically the same as the other two, but I use MySQL, and there's some login and admin details that are provided by the Python Mega course instructor in here. So I'm not going to show you that because you know, it's the course instructor's details. So I don't really want to put that on there. But it basically the same thing. It functions the same way. It just gets the data. It gets the data, like the actual dictionary data, from somewhere else. And that's it. So main highlights of the week are definitely the rock paper scissors game and the Thesaurus, which I managed to make. Alright guys, that is going to about cover it for week 2. Less time than I would have liked to have spent for week 2, but as you saw, did some interesting stuff, got some interesting experience, definitely developing. I enjoyed making all the little micro projects, all the little mini apps and mini programs that I made. And I'm still having a lot of fun with it. So if you're out there as well, and maybe you're trying to do the same thing, maybe you're trying to learn how to code from scratch at home on your own, these kind of websites, the practicepython.org website is really good. If you don't want to use the practicepython.org website, you can just kind of like take a look at the sort of things that I've put together, and then you can go and recreate them yourself. But that'll be all for now, and I'll catch you next week for week 3.